Most container gardeners sabotage their plants by treating potting mix like soil and then, wondering why everything stalls halfway through the season. They keep adding liquid feeds, chasing deficiencies, flushing salts, and honestly blaming genetics when the real issue is biological poverty. Containers collapse because there's nothing alive inside them doing the heavy lifting. That's the mistake. And it's exactly why I decided to test ancient-style worm castings in containers, the way they were used long before bottled nutrients existed. What happened next looked fake, even to me. The results didn't look real, especially in leafy crops. Lettuce, kale, and basil looked like they were grown in a different environment. Leaf thickness increased. Color deepened without extra nitrogen. Harvest intervals shortened. In some cases, I was cutting basil every 5 days instead of every 10. What stood out wasn't just growth, it was consistency. No tip burn, no sudden yellowing, no need to chase nutrients. The containers held steady even as temperatures fluctuated. Fruit crops told a more interesting story. Tomatoes and peppers didn't just grow faster, they set fruit earlier and held it. Flower drop decreased noticeably. Calcium-related issues like blossom end rot dropped without adding calcium supplements. That's not magic. That's microbial mediation and improved nutrient transport. The ancient castings didn't flood the system with nutrients. They improved how roots accessed what was already there. That's the difference most people never measure. Why bottled feeds couldn't replicate this? I tried to match the results with liquid organic feeds in control pots. I couldn't. Growth was uneven, leaves surged, then faded, roots stayed shallow, containers required constant attention. With the castings, the system stabilized itself. I watered less often. I fed less often. The plants regulated their own uptake. That's what healthy biology does. Raised beds reacted similarly, but slower. That's expected. Beds already have microbial momentum. Containers don't. That's why this method shines in pots. What about hydroponics and where the line is? I don't put worm castings directly into hydro systems. That's asking for clogs and anaerobic problems. But I do use casting extracts. A small amount, about 1 cup of ancient castings steeped in 5 gallons of aerated water for 12 hours, produced noticeable root improvements when used as a root drench in cocoa-based systems. Again, the age mattered. Fresh castings caused slime. Ancient castings didn't. The common advice that gets this wrong: people say castings are mild and can't hurt plants. That's false in containers. Too much fresh casting can suffocate roots, spike microbial respiration, and crash oxygen levels. People also say all castings are the same. They aren't. Age, feedstock, and processing matter more than brand names. Why this method works long-term? Ancient worm castings don't just feed plants. They build a self-regulating root environment. That's why the results look fake. And we're so used to micromanaging containers that we forget what happens when biology is allowed to do its job. In my tests, containers with ancient castings stayed productive weeks longer at the end of the season. Roots stayed white, media stayed structured. That's the real win. How I'd tell a serious grower to use this. If you're growing in containers and struggling with inconsistency, stop adding more products. Start fixing biology. Use finished mature worm castings at moderate rates. Mix some in, top dress some, and let the system stabilize before you judge results. This isn't flashy. It's effective. Why this still matters if you already know worm castings. Most experienced growers know about castings. Few respect them enough to use them correctly. This isn't beginner compost talk. This is about maturity, restraint, and understanding where containers fail. If this kind of grounded, results-first growing matters to you, subscribe to the Husbandry channel and share this video with someone who's tired of fighting their containers. Better food doesn't come from more inputs. It comes from better systems, and ancient worm castings are one of the simplest systems fixes you can make.